Just a day before the Canon EOS R7 and R10 announcement, additional leaked specifications for both cameras as well as additional leaked images have surfaced. Details coming up, but first I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so you're kept informed on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. I told you today was going to be a busy day. No sooner had I finished recording, I took all the stuff upstairs, sat down at the computer to edit. I thought, let me just check one more time. And well, according to Digicami-info, we have leaked images and leaked specifications of the Canon EOS R10 and R7, not the lenses. This is all about the two cameras. First of all, let's take a look at the leaked images. First up is the Canon EOS R7. And in the front view here, it looks like that manual and autofocus switch is on the front. And in previous leaked images, we thought this was just an artist's rendition, that it was made up. So it looks like this is accurate according to the leaked specifications for Digicami-info. So there's the front of the R7, and this is the back. We can see it's got an info button, the D-pad there. A lot of the buttons here are what you would traditionally see in a Canon camera, the EVF placement, and look at this up at the top. That's a little bit different, isn't it? Right beside the AF on button. Interesting. The only thing we don't have here is a top-down, and I wish we do, but we do have two side profiles, one showing where the HDMI goes, and hopefully this is a full-size port. And other buttons, then of course on the other side, this is where the SD cards go in. Sadly for the Canon EOS R10, the only image we have is this one, and yeah, it's terrible. I'm almost embarrassed to put it up there. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the specifications. Starting off first with the much anticipated Canon R7. I almost said 7D because that's what it's replacing, is the 7D Mark II, which was announced and released way back in 2014. That was a long time ago. That's 8 years ago. So finally, almost a decade later, we have a successor. So according to the rumors, we were supposed to be getting a 32.5 APS-C sensor for the R system, and that is correct. And it doesn't look like it's going to be APS-C or stacked. We don't know if there's going to be any other modifications. But as I predicted, it is going to have a Digic X processor, and that is very significant. So even if the sensor hasn't changed, having the Digic X in it is significant. This is a very fast processor, very fast image processor. To give you an idea, look at the 1DX Mark II and the 1DX Mark I and other 1 series cameras. They had 2 image processors in it. The 1DX Mark III, which can do almost 6K video, 20 frames per second electronic, 16 frames per second mechanical, and push an awful lot of data, have a very big buffer, only has a single Digic X processor. It's the same processor put in the R5. And keep in mind, the R5 also doesn't have a BSI or stacked sensor either. So I think having the Digic X in there would certainly make up for just taking the sensor from the Canon 90D and the M6 Mark II. So 32.5 APS-C sensor. It's going to be on the R system using the RFS mount. It's going to have the Digic X processor, and this is a big deal too. We haven't seen this previously in anything under full frame and on the R system. We're getting IBIS on an APS-C mirrorless camera for Canon, so really great news there. IBIS. I don't know how many stops, whether it be 5 stops, but either way, to have IBIS, especially on a smaller sensored camera, I suspect it'll work better than it does on the Canon EOS R5 and R6. As far as video go, nothing has changed from previous leaked specifications. We're supposed to get 4K up to 60 frames per second. No mention whether there's going to be any sort of oversampling, such as full sensor oversampling to 4K. We are going to get 120 frames per second in 1080. Again, no mention of whether autofocus is going to be crippled or not. I would suspect with the Digic X processor being in there that it's going to function just like any other camera. The only question is, how detailed is 120 going to be? On the Canon EOS R5, 120 is a little bit soft. It's going to have the same battery as the Canon EOS R5 and R6. And the EVF, this is going to disappoint some of you, especially if you've gotten used to Sony's 9.44 million dot EVF. You're going to get a 2.36 million dot EVF on the R7. And the LCD, it's going to be a let me try that again. It's going to be a 1.62 million dot LCD on the R7. So not too bad there. Now, as far as dimensions, let me read this off the screen here. It's going to weigh around 612 grams, so pretty much in keeping with most of these older DSLR bodies. And dimensions are going to be, and this is in millimeters, 132 by 90.4 by 91.7. So we do have some more leaked specifications. These aren't the full leaked specifications that I was hoping for. Those are the ones where you get the full resolutions and frame rates. You get every detail. You get the ISO dynamic range. So this is just a bit of a refresher. And hopefully by the time I go upstairs and start editing this, we'll have, no, I want a break. I want a bit of a break. I haven't had my tea yet. I just woke up at 6 o'clock and already 2 videos out the door. So hopefully we do get more information. I know, look, we need ISO, we need dynamic range, we need a whole lot more information. And even the information that I've given you, we need more information behind that. But it's looking pretty exciting. All right, now over to the Canon EOS R10. The Canon EOS R10 has a 24.2 megapixel APS-C sensor, no mention of BSI or stacked, but it will get a Digic X processor. And that's really good news. So the same benefits that we got in the R7 with that Digic X processor that we got in the 1DX Mark III, the R5 and the R6, gives us that much more performance to be able to process a huge amount of data. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail like I did with the Canon EOS R7, but it really is going to make things a lot more snappier. We're going to get more detailed in the video and in the stills as well. And as far as stills go, I forgot to mention the still rate. Let's talk about the R7, 15 frames per second mechanical and 30 frames per second electronic. The R10, 15 frames per second mechanical and 23 frames per second electronic. So it looks like this camera's a successor to the M50 at this point with the same sensor size, which was 24 megapixels. So that's the way this is kind of looking. And we don't have IBIS, so that indicates it's more an affordable camera. Although, yeah, it's kind of sad that we're not getting IBIS there. It's going to have the same battery as the R5 and the R6, and it's going to have a single, or is it a single? Yep, a single SD card slot UHS 2. So definitely the cripple hammer striking here a little bit. And really, we can call this segmentation. This camera is going to be priced quite a bit lower than the R7. And to do that, well, we lose things such as IBIS, and we lose dual card slots. And I've been shooting with a single card slot for many years, and it wasn't until a recent firmware update for the Canon EOS R5 that I could record video to both card slots to begin with. So even when you spend a lot of money, there's no guarantee, even with dual card slots, that you're going to be able to record video to both card slots at the same time. And as far as video resolutions and frame rates, no updates over previous rumors. We're going to be able to do 4K up to 60 frames per second. No mention if it's going to be able to do any oversampling at all. And as far as the R10 goes in 1080, we'll be able to do 120 frames per second. And that it's got the Digic X processor. We know it can easily record 120 frames per second with more detail, and it's going to be able to do so with, well, I would suspect a lot more detail because we're doing 120 here versus the 4K in the R5. But not only that, it should work with autofocus. We've got plenty of processing power here, more than is needed for a camera of this caliber. And in terms of size and weight, it weighs 429 grams and a size of 122.5 millimeters by 87.8 by 83.4. So significantly lighter than the R7. I wouldn't say half the weight, I'd say 2/3 the weight. So that's significantly lighter. Pretty interesting there. When we first got the rumors of both cameras, they seem pretty similar in some regards, but now that we've got these other specifications, we can see the weight. The body of this sounds like it's going to be an all plastic body, whereas the R7 is probably going to have some sort of metal body. Not really sure if it's going to be magnesium or not, but it's definitely a heavier body, right up there with the R5 and the R6 in terms of other APS-C DSLRs that Canon's made. They all seem to be right around that 700 gram amount. And so what was it, 600 grams? Let me go back and take a look. Yeah, it was 612 grams for the R7. So definitely up there in weight. It's got more specifications. It's got IBIS, dual SD card slots, which I think is really, really nice to have. But like I said in the previous video, I really want to see the full leak specifications of these cameras. And I would like to see high resolution shots. I want to know if it has a full-size HDMI slot on either cameras, or at least a mini. My 70D has a mini, so there's no reason why Canon can't at the very least give us a mini. I hate that micro. It just, even when you plug things in, it just doesn't feel very tight. So if it does have a mini, we're going to probably get one of those card organizer adapter thingies that plugs into the side. And if you do get one of those and you're going to use an HDMI cable, definitely use one of those. One of the biggest reasons why cameras go in for repairs is, well, at least ones with micro HDMI slots is, yeah, things happen. So really exciting. I expect full leak specifications to come out sometime later today. This is looking pretty exciting, maybe even a press release. But that's it for now. One last thing though, if you want to get the latest news and information as it comes out, subscribe, but also choose all notifications. And if you had have done that already, you would have got notification of this video because, like I said, on days like this, I'm rapidly putting out videos as information changes. So choose all notifications. So that way, as soon as a new video is released, you're going to get notified, so you get the latest news and rumors at your fingertips before anybody else. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.